Welcome to the Friday 13th YouTube Metalheads. Today we're going to be talking about a new album by Sweden's melodic symphonic power metal band Bloodbound. We're about to release their new album on the 7th of July. It's called Tales from the North, released on AFM Records. This is a good one, folks. Now, the band originally formed back in 2004 in Bollnäs. This is the same area in Sweden where Tabula and Morgana Le Fay were formed. Originally put together by former Street Talk member Fredrik Berg, also Thomas Olsson, with the original singer Michael Bowman, who was once with the band Jaded Heart. In later years, the band would introduce Urban Breed, former Tad to the vocalists, and Pelle Ekrund, former Morgana Le Fay. In 2005, the band would release their debut album, Nosferatu. This would feature Urban Breed on vocals. This album would also feature Oscar Bellim on drums. In 2007, the band would release their next album. This would feature vocalist at the time, Michael Bowman, who was once with the band Jaded Heart and Letter X. Tabula Rasa would be the next album in 2009. This would feature, once again, Urban Breed on vocals. Now, the music would go a bit more heavy on this album, but it's a really good album. And in places, it would remind me a little bit of Morgana Le Fay. Patrick Johansson would do the next album, Unholy Cross, and he was once with a band called Shadow Quest. In total, the band have released 9 previous albums, and the first album for Patrick's vocals was the album called War of the Dragons, released in 2017. So the current lineup for the new album is Patrick Selby on vocals, would have Thomas Olsson on lead and rhythm guitars, would have Fredrik Berg on keyboards and vocals, Hendrik Olsson on rhythm guitar, Andreas Bowman on bass, and would have Daniel Jesberg on drums. Now, I've listened to this band from the very first albums, and they're sounding more melodic power metal. These days, they've introduced a lot more keyboards, and they've gone for the symphonic melodic power metal vibe, which is nothing wrong with that, guys. It's very popular in Europe, and if you like the symphonic stuff, this is a band you need to really listen to. They kind of remind me of Stratovarius, Halloween, Hammerfall. Also, Dragonland and Dignity. So if you like the crossover, the melodic power metal like Hammerfall and Halloween and the Stratovarius, along with Dragonland, then you're really going to like this band. The new album, Tales from the North, is based roughly on the Viking history. It's a really interesting album, and the artwork is really, really cool. It kind of reminds me of something off Lord of the Rings. And the album was produced by the band in various studios. And the artwork was done by Peter Sala and Paul Theroux, 2 amazing artists that have worked together to create this brilliant album cover. So we've got 11 songs for this album. I'm going to tell you what the titles are. We've got Tales from the North, which is the opening track. We'd have Drink from the Gods, Odin's Prayer, The Raven's Cry, Maris Crystal Eye, Between the Enemy Lines, Land of Heroes, Sail Among the Dead, Stake Your Claims, Sword and Axe, and 1066. There's also a bonus disc with this. On the second disc, we have the titles Bloodtail, Creatures of the Dark Realm, Slayers of Kings, In the Name of Metal, Stand and Fight, Where Fate is Calling, Stormborn, A New Era Begins, Battle in the Sky, Nightmares from the Grave, The Warlock's Tale, Mora, Dragons Are Forever, Rays of the Dragon's Empire, and Nosferatu. Now, this album would be mastered and mixed by Jonas Kilberg, who's worked with Amorphis, Overkill, and Sabaton. Now, the opening song, Tales from the North, I really like the beginning of this. It's an intro with the vocalist Patrick doing the vocals. The music is very Celtic, very Viking inspired. You will understand what I mean when you hear this music. It's a very interesting intro, but it builds up into a very powerful melodic symphonic metal song. It's a very bombastic, in-your-face keyboard sound. Really, it is powerful. And if you crank it up on your hi-fi, you'll understand why. Musically, it kind of reminds me of Hammerfall, Stratovarius, maybe a little bit of Guardian. Now, the second song, Drink with the Gods, this kind of reminds me of Amon Amarth, just for the Viking vibe, not necessarily the music. It has nothing to do with the brutality that Amon Amarth have. It does have that Hammerfall vibe. It does have the Odin Celtic Viking vibe too, but it's a really well-structured song. Now, the vocal harmonies are very much inspired by Hammerfall. In fact, if you're a fan of Hammerfall, this is a fantastic song for you to listen to. It's called Drink with the Gods. Hammerfall fans, this is for you. Now, Odin's Prayer, this is a really cool song. This kind of reminds me a little bit of Judas Priest, just the sheer power of Patrick's vocals. Kind of reminds me of Rob Halford, the same thing that he sort of does. very bombastic, right in your face vocals, but he's a fantastic singer, and the music for this song is absolutely brilliant. This song, even though it has a lot of keyboards, it reminds me a little bit of King Diamond. So if you're a King Diamond fan, just for the music, this is a song that needs to be heard. I love King Diamond personally. I love Judas Priest, so listen to this one. It's called Odin's Prayer. It also reminds me of the band Nocturnal Rites. Me personally, this is one of my favourite songs on the album. The next song, Raven's Cry, is very Celtic folk influenced. You can tell by the music if you listen to it. There's a lot of orchestral parts in this song. Vocals are brilliant, guitar playing is fantastic, really melodic, really well put together song, well arranged, very melodic, very solid song indeed. It's called The Raven's Cry. I think Thomas and Hendrik are two fantastic guitarists that work really well together, trading off each other, a little bit like KK Down and Glenn Tipton, or Graham Oliver and Paul Quinn, that sort of thing. Muriel's Crystal Eye. This kind of reminds me a little bit of Florida band Camelot. So if you're a fan of Camelot, this is a fantastic song for you to check out. There's some great keyboard playing. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Stratovarius. So the vibe of Camelot and Stratovarius really does work well for this song. So I'll give you a little bit of a rundown, a little of a breakup of the album. It's a brilliant album. And if you're a fan of Bloodbound, this is a fantastic follow-up to all the previous albums. This band have done some great albums in the past, and I can see this band doing some great albums in the future. So this is Bloodbound, Tales of the North. I'm going to give this album 4 out of 5. It's a good album. It's very solid in production. Some great guitar playing here, some great vocals and rhythm sections. So it's released on the 7th of July on AFM Records, Tales of the North. If you like symphonic power metal, if you like your power metal or some influences of Viking metal, then this is an album for you. Great album indeed. Check it out, metalheads.